Be still and know that what you seek is already yours. How many of us strive, push, and labor, believing that only through constant effort can we possess the things we desire? Yet I tell you, the secret is not in struggle but in rest. For creation is finished. Every possibility, every dream, every blessing already exists within you. When you relax, you enter the realm where imagination rules. Imagination is not idle fancy. It is the divine power within you, the creative force of God clothed as your own consciousness. What you dare to assume in quiet confidence, what you accept in the stillness of your inner world, that is what will harden into fact in the outer world. Do not chase after your desires as though they are far away. To chase is to affirm separation. Instead, close your eyes, rest in the end, and live from the state of the wish fulfilled. Assume it is already done. Feel the joy, the relief, the satisfaction now, and then release it. The world will rearrange itself. People will move, circumstances will align, and without strain or force, the thing you have claimed will come to you. It cannot fail, for imagination creates reality. So I urge you, relax, trust, be still within. Your desires are not outside of you. They are already contained within the infinite I am that you are. Rest in that knowing, and let the unseen arrange the scene. Everything you want is already waiting for you. Be still. Creation is already finished means that nothing you desire is outside the realm of possibility, for it already exists in the unseen. Every outcome, every version of your life has been created and awaits your recognition. When you quiet the restless mind, you touch the eternal truth that there is no need to make or struggle, only to choose. Stillness aligns you with the state you long for, dissolving fear and doubt. In stillness, you shift awareness from lack to fulfillment, and the finished creation naturally reveals itself in the perfect sequence of your life. Imagination is the true creative power because it is the divine faculty through which all things are brought into being. Every building, every invention, every work of art first existed as a picture in the mind of someone who dared to believe in its reality before it took form. Imagination is not idle daydreaming. It is the blueprint of creation, the unseen mold from which the scene is shaped. When you imagine with feeling, you impress upon the subconscious the reality of your desire, and the subconscious, being bound to obey, expresses it as fact in the outer world. The world you see with your physical eyes is only a reflection of what has been accepted and sustained in imagination. To ignore this power is to surrender to chance, but to master it is to become the deliberate creator of your experience. You need not struggle, for imagination operates effortlessly when you assume the state you desire and persist in that inner vision. It is the silent cause behind every effect you call reality, and it never fails to clothe itself in form once it is believed and felt as true within. Striving affirms separation. Rest affirms unity because the very act of chasing after something declares that it is not yet yours, that it is distant, that it belongs to another place or another time. When you strive, you create within yourself a constant state of tension, silently proclaiming that fulfillment lives outside of you and must be pursued. The harder you chase, the further away it seems, for the chase itself is built upon the assumption of lack. To strive is to say, I do not yet have, and as long as that belief remains alive, the experience of not having continues to echo in the outer world. Rest, however, dissolves this illusion. Rest is the quiet confidence that what you seek is already contained within your being, that you are one with the very reality you long for. When you rest in the end, when you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, you declare unity with your desire, and in that unity there is no gap to close, no distance to cross, no struggle to endure. Rest allows you to live from fulfillment rather than toward it, to embody the joy, peace, and assurance of already possessing. In that still acceptance, the invisible shapes the visible, and the unseen flows naturally into expression without resistance. For unity has no need to chase what it already is, live from the end, not toward it, because the state of consciousness you embody now determines the reality that unfolds before you. To live toward the end is to see your desire as a distant goal, something that might happen one day if conditions align, if you work hard enough, or if life permits. That mindset keeps the end always ahead of you, never here, never now. Living from the end means assuming that the wish is already fulfilled, that what you desire has already been granted, and that you are now simply enjoying the fruits of it in your imagination. It is not pretending or forcing, but rather entering into the natural feeling of already being or having what you seek. When you live from the end, you clothe yourself inwardly with the state of completion, and your subconscious accepts this as true. From that acceptance, your outer world inevitably reshapes itself to reflect the inner conviction you have assumed. To live from the end requires faith, for the senses may not yet confirm what you imagine. The world may appear unchanged, and the evidence may seem to contradict your assumption. Yet, in spite of appearances, you persist in the inner, knowing that it is already done. This persistence is not struggle but quiet assurance, a rest in the unseen reality that precedes the seen. Each time you return to the end in imagination, you strengthen your identification with it, and the stronger that identification becomes, the faster it outpictures itself in your life. Living from the end also transforms your behavior and decisions. You naturally act in harmony with the state you have assumed, not by effort, but by the automatic outflow of your new identity. Thoughts, words, and actions align with the end, because you have already placed yourself there inwardly. The journey becomes effortless, for you are no longer chasing a dream, but living from it. In this way, you discover that the end is not something you arrive at, but something you embody now. And as you remain faithful to that inner state, the world must yield and reveal it in form. Assume the wish fulfilled with quiet confidence. For assumption is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between desire and manifestation. To assume is to inwardly accept a reality as though it were already here, to feel it with such naturalness that the line between imagination and experience disappears. Quiet confidence is essential because it is not noisy striving, not frantic hoping, not anxious grasping, but a serene knowing that what has been assumed in consciousness must inevitably express itself. The wish fulfilled is not a distant event to be waited for, but a present state to be entered now in imagination and to dwell in as naturally as breathing. When you assume the wish fulfilled, you take your attention away from what appears to be lacking and place it firmly on the reality of having. The outer world may present lack delay or contradiction, but those appearances cannot stand against the inner law that imagination creates reality. By entering the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you impress the subconscious mind. And since the subconscious accepts every impression as truth, it sets in motion the unseen forces that shape the circumstances of your life. You need not know how it will unfold or through what means it will come to pass, for assumption itself is the cause, and its fulfillment is the inevitable effect. Quiet confidence separates true assumption from wishful thinking. Wishful thinking looks outward, waiting for evidence before believing, and therefore never rises beyond doubt. Quiet confidence looks inward, knowing the evidence will come, because the inner state has already been claimed. It is the calm conviction that says, "It is done," and rests in that assurance without struggle or fear. This confidence is not arrogance, but alignment with the eternal law of consciousness, recognizing that what is held inwardly must take shape outwardly. To assume the wish fulfilled is to shift identity. You cease being the one who longs and become the one who has. You stop asking and start living as though the answer has already been granted. This shift is not forced. It is cultivated through imagination, repetition, and feeling. Each time you return to the end in imagination, feeling its reality with quiet confidence, you reinforce the identity of fulfillment. Over time, that identity becomes natural, and when it is natural, the outer world mirrors it with ease. This practice does not require strain, for it is not effort that produces results, but faithfulness to the state assumed. The more you relax into the feeling of already being, already having, already fulfilled, the faster the outer aligns. Assumption with quiet confidence is the secret of creation, the silent force that transforms desire into reality without noise, without doubt, without struggle, for it moves in harmony with the truth that consciousness is the only reality, and what you are conscious of being is what you inevitably express. Feeling is the secret to manifestation, because it is the bridge that unites imagination with reality. the living proof that what is contemplated inwardly has been accepted as true. Thought alone, when dry and mechanical, rarely bears fruit, but thought infused with feeling becomes alive, creative, and irresistible. Feeling is not mere emotion, it is the inner acceptance, the deep conviction, the vibrational knowing that what you have imagined is already real. When you feel a state, you impress it upon the subconscious, and the subconscious, being the womb of creation, accepts it without question and brings it forth into your outer world. Many people imagine what they want but fail to clothe it in the feeling of fulfillment. They see the image but remain emotionally bound to the state of lack, and so the lack continues. To think of a desire is not enough, you must think from it. You must rise inwardly into the reality, where the wish is already fulfilled, and feel yourself there as naturally as you feel yourself sitting in your current environment. Feeling it real is the creative act, for it signals to the subconscious that the state is already yours, and once accepted, it will externalize itself through people, circumstances, and events that align with that inner conviction. The secret lies in cultivating the ability to generate the feeling of the wish fulfilled regardless of present appearances. The senses may contradict, the world may oppose, but feeling transcends appearances because it does not depend upon evidence. It is an inner state, self-contained and self-sustained, and the outer must eventually yield to it. If you feel wealth while appearances show lack, wealth must come. If you feel love while the world seems barren of affection, love must find its way into expression. The outer always bends to the inner feeling, for consciousness is the only reality, and feeling is its language. To understand feeling is to understand the law of assumption. Assumption without feeling is empty. It is a hollow declaration that carries no creative power. But assumption with feeling is like a seed planted in fertile soil, certain to grow and bear fruit in its season. Feeling gives substance to the unseen, making it tangible to the subconscious, which then reproduces it faithfully. That is why imagination alone is not the key, but imagination filled with the tones of reality, colored by the emotions and sensations of already being fulfilled, is the true creative act. This practice requires persistence. The feeling of the wish fulfilled must be revisited until it becomes natural, until the old state of lack loses its grip and the new state becomes your dwelling place. Each time you enter imagination and feel yourself already the person you desire to be, you reinforce the new identity. Over time, it ceases to feel like pretending and becomes your natural state of consciousness. And once it is natural, manifestation flows effortlessly. Feeling also reveals the importance of inner harmony. When you assume a state but continue to entertain feelings of fear, doubt, or contradiction, you weaken the impression upon the subconscious. But when you quiet the mind, surrender resistance, and allow the feeling of fulfillment to saturate you fully, you create a perfect mold through which the unseen flows into visibility. Feeling is not a struggle, but a surrender, a yielding to the reality you have chosen inwardly. By dwelling in the feeling, you move beyond wanting into being, beyond hoping into knowing, beyond separation into unity. With the desire itself, relaxation allows desires to flow to you, because it removes the inner resistance that blocks the natural movement of life. When you are tense, anxious, or striving, you hold tightly to the state of not having, affirming with every thought and action that what you want is still distant. The more you strain, the louder you declare lack, and the subconscious accepts this impression, faithfully reproducing it in the outer world. Relaxation, however, is the letting go of that struggle, the quiet recognition that what you desire is already finished and already contained within you. In relaxation, you enter alignment with the flow of creation, and what you seek moves toward you effortlessly because you no longer stand in the way. Relaxation is not laziness, nor is it apathy. It is the highest form of trust, a state where you rest in the knowledge that consciousness is the only reality and that your inner state determines what appears outwardly. To relax is to release the habit of chasing, of worrying about how or when, and to rest in the feeling of the end. When you rest in the end, you stop affirming separation and begin affirming unity. You declare by your stillness that you and your desire are one, and from that unity, the outer world reshapes itself naturally. Circumstances shift, opportunities arise, people are moved into place, and events unfold without strain or manipulation, because you have surrendered the effort of forcing and replaced it with the certainty of allowing. The power of relaxation lies in the state of consciousness it produces. A relaxed mind is receptive, creative, and fertile. It is in moments of calm and stillness that imagination flows freely, and the feeling of the wish fulfilled can be impressed deeply upon the subconscious. When you are tense, imagination is scattered, constantly pulled back to the evidence of lack. But when you are relaxed, you can enter the end with ease, feel it as natural, and let that impression sink deeply into the unseen where it begins its work. Relaxation is therefore not passive, but profoundly active, for it clears the channel through which the unseen flows into visibility. When you relax, you also dissolve doubt. Doubt thrives on effort, on the endless striving to make things happen. But relaxation silences the noise of uncertainty. It says, "It is done," and rests in that knowing. From this rest, desires come swiftly because the path is clear. It is like holding water in a tightly closed fist. The more you grip, the less you can keep. But when you open the hand and relax, the water naturally fills the palm. So it is with desire. When you hold too tightly, you affirm separation. When you relax, you allow it to fill your life with ease. Relaxation also transforms the way you interact with the world. Instead of moving through life with tension, forcing outcomes, and fighting against appearances, you walk with calm assurance, knowing that the unseen is arranging itself for you. This state of being changes how others respond to you, for relaxation radiates confidence and trust. People sense it, and circumstances bend in response to the energy you carry. A relaxed state creates harmony, and harmony invites fulfillment. To cultivate this, you must learn to rest not only physically but mentally and emotionally. Physical rest restores the body, but mental rest frees you from the cycle of worry and striving. Emotional rest lifts you from the vibration of fear and places you in the vibration of fulfillment. Practices such as deep breathing, meditation, or simply closing your eyes and entering the end in imagination all create this relaxation. The goal is not merely to relax the body, but to rest consciousness in the state of already being fulfilled. Relaxation is faith in action. It is the lived expression of the belief that what you desire is already yours. It allows you to move beyond striving and step into receiving, beyond chasing and into allowing. Desires are not attracted by force, they are welcomed by trust. When you relax, you embody that trust, and the desires that once seemed far away flow toward you, not because you chased them, but because you became the stillness in which they are already complete. The outer world mirrors the inner state because reality is not something that exists independently of your consciousness, but is a reflection of it, shaped and colored by the assumptions, beliefs, and feelings you carry within. Every event, every encounter, every circumstance is a projection of what has been impressed upon the subconscious mind, for the subconscious accepts without question whatever the conscious mind assumes to be true and reproduces it faithfully on the screen of space. This is why two people can walk through the same world and yet live in entirely different realities, for each experiences not the world as it is, but the world as they are. Your inner state is the cause, and the outer world is the effect. To attempt to change the effect without altering the cause is to labor in vain, for the external will only reorganize itself into the same pattern unless the inner pattern has been transformed. The one who feels lack within will encounter lack without, no matter how much effort is made in the external world, while the one who feels abundance within will naturally attract abundance without, regardless of appearances. Life is a mirror reflecting back to you the assumptions you have dared to make, and as you change the inner state, the outer reflection cannot resist changing with it. This truth explains why striving, forcing, or manipulating circumstances often fails to bring lasting change. External effort alone is powerless if the inner state remains unchanged, because the subconscious will continue to outpicture the state that dominates consciousness. A person who clings to fear while trying to attract security will only encounter more situations that confirm fear, for the mirror of life has no choice but to reflect what is impressed upon it. Yet, when fear is replaced with calm assurance, when lack is replaced with the feeling of fulfillment, then without effort the mirror reflects security and fulfillment. The outer world cannot deny the command of the inner state, for it is nothing more than its obedient shadow. This mirror principle also reveals why appearances must not be trusted above imagination. Appearances are only the echo of a former state, the visible outpicturing of what was once impressed within. To live in reaction to appearances is to remain bound to the past, endlessly recreating the same cycles. But to live from imagination, to occupy inwardly the state you desire regardless of appearances, is to plant a new cause. And the mirror must eventually reflect this new seed in visible form. The wise do not argue with the reflection, they go directly to the source, shaping the inner state with clarity and feeling, knowing that the mirror cannot resist conforming to it. The outer world mirrors not only desires but also hidden beliefs and assumptions. Often, the challenges and obstacles that appear in life are not punishments, but reflections of unconscious patterns that have been left unexamined. To observe the outer world honestly is to see into the depths of one's own consciousness. If conflict arises repeatedly, it reveals an inner state of conflict. If love and harmony abound, it reveals an inner state of love and harmony. In this way, life becomes a teacher, constantly showing you through its reflections what you have accepted within yourself. By learning to read these reflections without judgment, you gain the key to transformation, for you no longer seek to blame the mirror, but to change the face you present to it. The mirror also responds to subtle shifts in feeling more quickly than most realize. A single assumption, once felt deeply and consistently, has the power to reorganize circumstances with remarkable speed. It may seem miraculous, yet it is the natural law of consciousness at work. The outer has no reality of its own. It is malleable clay shaped by the inner potter. And as the potter changes his design, the clay must follow. The secret is not to wrestle with the clay, but to master the design within, to dwell consistently in the inner state that you wish to see expressed. To live with this awareness is to step into freedom. No longer are you at the mercy of chance, circumstance, or the actions of others, for you know that the true power lies in shaping the inner state. Every desire becomes attainable, because every desire is simply a new inner state to be assumed. By dwelling in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you change the inner pattern, and the mirror of life faithfully reflects the change in due time. Patience is required, for the reflection does not always appear instantly, but certainty is never in doubt, for the mirror cannot resist the command of consciousness. The outer world is nothing more than a stage upon which your inner state plays out its script. If you desire a different play, you must not argue with the actors or rearrange the props, but rewrite the script within. The characters will then assume their new roles, the scenery will shift, and the story will unfold exactly as you have written it in imagination. To understand this is to understand that you are both author and actor, both dreamer and dream, and that the mirror of life is but your servant, faithfully showing you who you believe yourself to be within. Trust the unseen to arrange the scene, because the unseen is the true reality, the hidden cause behind every visible effect. What you call the physical world is nothing more than crystallized imagination, a hardened shadow of the thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions that have already been accepted within consciousness. The unseen is not empty or void. It is the living substance of imagination, the invisible field of infinite potential where every possibility exists already complete. To trust the unseen is to recognize that what you desire is not something to be created from nothing, but something that has already been finished in the realm of consciousness, waiting only for your assumption of its reality to draw it into visibility. The mind that insists on controlling appearances and forcing outcomes often grows weary, for it labors against the law of creation. The outer world cannot be rearranged by struggle alone, for it is but the mirror of the inner state. To wrestle with the mirror while ignoring the face it reflects is to condemn yourself to endless frustration. But when you trust the unseen, you shift your attention from the reflection to the source, from appearances to imagination, from the seen to the unseen. You understand that the unseen carries the blueprint, and once the blueprint is accepted within, the outer scene cannot resist reshaping itself accordingly. Trust requires surrender, a release of the compulsion to know when or how the fulfillment will come. The human tendency is to demand visible evidence before believing. Yet this very demand is what delays the manifestation. To insist on proof before trust is to affirm that the unseen is weak, that imagination is idle fancy, and that only the outer world has power. But when you reverse this order, when you place faith in imagination, you align yourself with the truth that consciousness is the only reality, and that what is held inwardly must sooner or later express itself outwardly. Trust is not blind, it is the deepest form of vision, for it sees with the inner eye what the outer eye cannot yet confirm. The unseen arranges the seen through channels that the conscious mind could never predict. A sudden meeting, an unexpected turn of events, a chance opportunity. All of these are but the means by which the unseen reveals itself. The how is never your concern, for the how belongs to the unseen, which moves with perfect intelligence. Your part is only to assume the end and rest in its feeling. The unseen does the arranging. The conscious mind, limited in scope, often tries to dictate the path, but such dictation is unnecessary, for the unseen knows every possible road and always chooses the one that brings the desired end into expression with effortless precision. Trusting the unseen also means refusing to be deceived by appearances. The outer world, being the shadow of past states, often shows evidence that contradicts your present assumption. If you take those appearances as final, you return to the old state and perpetuate the same reality. But when you hold steady in imagination, when you persist in the unseen reality of your desire, appearances must eventually yield. They have no choice but to dissolve and give way to the stronger, more consistent inner state. To trust the unseen is to walk by faith and not by sight, to anchor yourself in the unseen fulfillment rather than the seen lack, and in doing so, you transform the lack into fulfillment. Consider the nature of seeds. When you plant a seed in the soil, you cannot see its growth, yet you trust that it is sprouting in the darkness, unfolding silently beneath the surface. You do not dig it up daily to check its progress, for such doubt would only hinder its growth. You trust the unseen process, knowing that in due time the seed will break through the soil and appear as the plant you envisioned. So it is with desires. When you assume the end, you plant the seed in the subconscious. Though you cannot see the immediate unfolding, you trust that the unseen is arranging itself to bring forth the visible expression. In the same way, doubt is like digging up the seed, while trust is the patient assurance that the unseen is working perfectly. The unseen works best when you are at rest. Rest is the sign of true faith, for when you know it is done, there is no need to strive. You live as though the end has already been accomplished. And by living in that assumption, you allow the unseen to perform its task without interference. The restless mind that constantly checks for results, worries about delays, or questions its worthiness is like a hand placed in front of the sun, blocking the light from reaching the earth. But the relaxed mind that rests in the unseen allows the light to flow freely, and the unseen shapes the seen without obstruction. Trusting the unseen is not about passivity but alignment. It is not a withdrawal from life, but an entering into life more fully. For when you trust the unseen, you act from a higher state of confidence and calm. Your actions flow naturally, guided by inspiration rather than fear, and every step you take is infused with the certainty that the unseen is already arranging the seen for your benefit. Life becomes cooperative rather than adversarial, for you know that the unseen is always on your side, working through you and for you to bring about the fulfillment of your desires. To live in this trust is to live in freedom. You are no longer bound by appearances, no longer a slave to circumstances, no longer at the mercy of chance. You know that the unseen shapes the seen, and therefore you keep your attention fixed on the unseen reality of your desire. You enter it in imagination, feel it as real, and persist in that state with quiet confidence. The outer must follow, for it is nothing more than the shadow of the inner. Trust the unseen, and the seen cannot help but arrange itself into harmony with the state you have already claimed within everything you seek. is already within you because the source of all creation resides not outside in the shifting world of appearances, but within the stillness of your own consciousness. The desires that stir within your heart are not random longings placed there by chance. They are whispers of your true being, hints of the greater self you already are. To believe that fulfillment lies somewhere beyond you is to deny the power that animates your existence. For nothing can appear in your outer world that is not first conceived within. The entire drama of life is played out as a projection of inner states, and what you call searching is often only the process of awakening to what has always been present in seed form within your own awareness. When you imagine a desire, you are not creating something new, but uncovering an aspect of yourself that has been waiting for recognition. Imagination does not invent, it reveals. Every possible state of being, every condition of life, already exists within the infinite field of consciousness, and by assuming a state, you call it forth into experience. To look outside for confirmation before you have assumed it inwardly is to remain trapped in a cycle of lack. But to claim it within and feel it real is to discover that what you seek was never absent. The longing itself is proof of possession, for you could not even desire a state unless it already existed within you. This truth transforms the way you view life. Instead of striving after wealth, love, health, or success as though they are possessions scattered in the distance, you realize they are inner states waiting to be embodied. Wealth is a state of consciousness, and when you feel it within, the outer world reflects it in opportunities and resources. Love is a state of being, and when you embody it inwardly, the world mirrors it in relationships and experiences. Health is not merely the absence of illness, but the presence of wholeness within, and when you align with that inner vitality, the body responds as the obedient servant of consciousness. Every desire is already yours in essence. Your task is not to chase it, but to awaken to it and assume it as natural. The outer world often deceives by presenting evidence that contradicts this truth. Appearances of lack, conflict, or failure may suggest that you are without what you seek, but appearances are only the shadows of past assumptions. They are echoes of states once accepted, not indications of what is now possible. If you react to them, you only reinforce the old state. But if you turn inward and rest in the end, knowing that everything you desire is already within, appearances must eventually dissolve. The mirror cannot help but reflect the face you choose to present, and once you change the inner image, the outer reflection cannot resist conforming. Everything you seek is already within you because consciousness is infinite and complete. There is no condition you can imagine that does not already exist in the unseen. When you imagine with feeling, you are not fabricating fantasy, but selecting from the infinite possibilities already present. You move into the state by inwardly identifying with it, and that identification brings it into manifestation. This is why imagination is called the creative power, for it reveals the hidden treasures of consciousness and brings them into form. You are never lacking. You are only unaware of the wealth within. To live with this awareness is to end the restless search for fulfillment outside yourself. No person, event, or circumstance can complete you, for you are already whole. Relationships, opportunities, and achievements are reflections of your inner state, not sources of your worth. When you grasp this, you cease clinging to the outer world and begin to cultivate the inner. You nurture the feeling of already being what you wish to be. And by doing so, you allow the outer to arrange itself in harmony. Life becomes less about pursuit and more about expression, less about getting and more about allowing. This truth also explains why struggle often leads to exhaustion rather than fulfillment. When you strive for something outside of you, you affirm separation and reinforce the belief that you are incomplete. But when you rest in the knowing that all you seek is already contained within your consciousness, you move from effort to ease, from chasing to receiving. Desire becomes a call to assume a new state, not a burden to carry. You relax, you enter imagination, and you feel the wish fulfilled, knowing that by doing so you have already aligned with its reality. The outer must follow, because it has no power of its own apart from the inner. The discovery that everything you seek is already within you also awakens a profound sense of responsibility. For if the outer world mirrors the inner, then you are the author of your experience, and the states you dwell in shape the life you live. This responsibility is not a burden, but a liberation, for it frees you from the tyranny of chance. No longer are you at the mercy of circumstances, for circumstances are effects, not causes. By choosing your inner state, you choose the reflection that must appear. If you seek love, embody love. If you seek abundance, assume abundance. If you seek peace, rest in peace within. The outer world has no choice but to mirror these states. Consider that the great teachers throughout history have pointed to this same truth in different language. They spoke of the kingdom of heaven being within, of faith making all things possible, of imagination being the divine power. They understood that the source of creation is not external but internal, and that by aligning with the truth within, the outer world becomes a stage upon which the inner state is dramatized. To ignore this is to wander endlessly in search of fulfillment outside, but to embrace it is to awaken to the realization that you already are what you seek. Everything you seek is already within you, because you are not separate from the infinite consciousness that contains all things. You are that consciousness localized in form, experiencing itself through states of being. When you desire something, you are being drawn to a deeper recognition of yourself, a higher expression of your own infinite nature. By assuming the state of the wish fulfilled, you are not becoming something new, but remembering what you already are. The desire is the invitation, the feeling is the acceptance, and the manifestation is the outer echo of the inner truth. To rest in this knowing is to live in freedom and peace. You no longer measure your worth by appearances, for you know appearances are fleeting shadows. You no longer chase fulfillment in the world, for you know the world is only a mirror. Instead, you turn within, assume the state, and feel its reality until it becomes natural. From that naturalness, the outer flows without effort, revealing again and again that everything you seek was never missing, never distant, but always waiting within you for your recognition.